everyone. You are live.
Hello, this is Yew Mountain Center News. This is Ailery, and this is
I'm here for emotional support.
who is here for emotional support, supposedly. And I am Sal Marks, your host. This is Miss Genevieve,
Who is our
who
special
is
guest.
our special guest for today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Yeah.
We will be asking you questions.
Okay. First, how do you say salt rising bread? Because there are so many different versions of how to say it.
It's true, there are, according to the old cookbooks, some people called it salt raising, some people called it salt rising.
Some people call it salt raisin, like me.
Yep, there's many different ways. It was mostly an oral tradition, so it was a spoken language. It wasn't written down so much.
Okay. What do you like to eat on your salt rising bread?
Oh, well, I mean, apple butter, or homemade jam, or grilled cheese sandwiches.
Now you're making me hungry.
That is some of my favorite.
How do you get in contact with the people that you talk to?
Well, a lot of times it's word of mouth. So you hear, like I heard that your mother knows how to make salt rising bread. So I would call that person up and ask them, do you mind if I come interview you like you're interviewing me?
Okay. Do you have a few questions?
How do you like your toast?
You mean like what do I like to put on it?
Yeah, like any toast.
Toast with butter, of course.
How did you first get interested in salt rising bread?
Well, I was visiting my friend Pearl Haynes, who lived up on a mountaintop in a part of Appalachia, and we were making soap. And we go inside to have lunch during a break, and they had grilled cheese sandwiches cooking, and the smell, I had never smelled anything like that. I've worked in a lot of restaurants, I went to cooking school. I had never smelled a bread like that before, and it just got my curiosity.
Why did you want to learn more about salt rising bread?
Because it's risen differently than any other bread I learned about. There's no yeast in it. And for me, right away, it was like this mystery and a challenge. So as a professional chef and baker, I could focus in on a type of bread that not very many people know about and try and understand it and make that known so that the tradition is kept alive.
Okay. Do you like the smell of salt rising starter?
Well, I mean, you can go in the kitchen right now and smell it. It's not a pleasant smell, but for me, I've baked thousands and thousands of loaves, so I look for the smell, and that's how, one of the ways I tell that it's ready.
Okay.
So I kind of like it in that regard.
Okay. What is your recipe for salt rising bread?
Well, I'm going to give you a copy of the recipe.
Okay, great.
And there's different recipes. I like the potato, cornmeal, baking soda recipe. Is that the one your mom uses?
My mom just uses the potato one.
Yep, that's the one I prefer. I have the most success with that one.
Okay, do you have one last question?
Like, where did you want to start finding how it was first found? Like, where in the world did you start?
Oh my gosh, that's a question that's dear to my heart, because a lot of the elderly people who bake salt rising bread say, oh, my ancestors brought it from Germany, or the Scot-Irish brought it, Or Pearl Haynes said that maybe her ancestors brought it from Wales. Well, I went to some of those countries, and they have no history of salt rising bread in their culture. So I said, well, wait a minute. So I looked at old cookbooks, old European cookbooks, no salt rising bread recipes. So I said, okay. And I'm working with my colleagues now, Susan Brown, for one. And she and I researched it. It took us decades. We looked at diary entries. We interviewed people. We went to different countries. And what we found was that the earliest salt rising bread recipes came from Appalachia, primarily West Virginia. And then we said, okay, maybe the slaves brought it over when they came. There's no history in the slave foodways of salt rising bread. We said, okay, maybe Native Americans taught early pioneer women how to make salt rising bread. And the Native Americans, they use potash, which is a type of salt, which some of the very early recipes talk about putting in salt rising bread, but they don't use it to ferment the bread. So we concluded it was the American pioneer women who invented this bread. This is an authentic American invention.
Well, that's it for today.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking your wonderful questions.
Hey.
Thank you.